Good afternoon, this is Peter Towers from ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this webinar for new subscribers to ESS BIZGRANTS. Thank you very much for your support of ESS BIZGRANTS, and we look forward to a long and very productive relationship. The theme for this webinar today is to examine the federal government's Industry Skills Fund, which was announced in February. But first of all, let's look at the key benefits to accountants and advisors from utilising ESS BIZGRANTS. We believe it enables you to offer a very proactive service to your clients, to be offering your clients something without them coming to you and asking you for it. The system is relatively easy to use. All the hard work has been done. Please use it to differentiate your services in the marketplace. One of the key things that we wanted to achieve when we developed ESS BIZGRANTS is that the accountant advisor would be in control of the process. You're not sending your client off to some unknown consultant who may be in association with a tax return preparer who might then try to poach your client. You're in control of the process. The system's going to produce a report that you're able to submit to your client. It's a great entry into the business advisory services area. Some firms hesitate about offering business advisory services. They're a bit scared of the processes. Well, government grants is a great way. The government's going to be paying 50% of the costs for the work to be done for your clients, and there's a lot of work that is funded under these various grants that accountants can undertake. Business plans, strategic plans, debtors reviews, human resources systems reviews, management team mentoring and training. There's a whole range of activities that you can be involved in. So the key benefits to small medium enterprises is that they're going to get financial assistance from a government department to assist them in their business dealings. So let's now turn to the Industry Skills Fund. This is a new initiative of the federal government. So there's help available for skills advice. This is being offered by a team of former private enterprise people that have been recruited around Australia to work for the Industry Skills Fund. And they're able to come in and give skills advice to a business. And there's also training grants. And that's primarily what I'm going to concentrate on this afternoon. In the paper that's within the ESS BIZGRANTS system, there are some further notes on the skills advice that the government has available under this program. Now, the Industry Skills Fund has a preference for businesses which are operating in the priority industry classifications that have been established by the current federal government. And those industry classifications are food and agribusiness, mining equipment, technology and services, pharmaceuticals and medical technologies, oil, gas and energy reserves, energy resources, and advanced manufacturing. So they're the prime industries that are covered. And then if the following industries supply services or are about to supply services to any of those 5 named industries, these industries are also eligible. Freight and logistics, infrastructure related construction, ICT and professional services primarily in the scientific area. Now, there would appear to only be 9 industry groups in these 2 areas if we just go back to them. But in fact, there's nearly 500 different types of businesses are covered by these 9 major headings. So there's a lot of businesses that can be eligible for this particular grant. However, applicants from other industries can apply, but you will not be given a priority entry, and that's okay, as long as these clients are able to indicate that they have significant growth potential. The government is looking for businesses that have got growth potential, and that those businesses are prepared to reposition themselves to take advantage of economic opportunities. So this is a new skills development. It's not teaching people how to type or how to do basic work, to use a lathe that they've been using for the last 10 years in their factory. It's to gear up new skills, new knowledge, so that the business can reposition itself to take advantage of economic opportunities, the majority of which will be seen to be in the international market. But they don't all have to be there, but that is where the government expects most of them to come from. So an applicant must be a company, must have operated for the last 3 years. A consortia can apply, and in the paper that you have within ESS BizGrant on the Industry Skills Fund, there is some detailed comment on consortia eligibility. But a consortium of 3 or more businesses can come together to apply for these funding. Now, the assistance available is interesting because for the first time, a federal government agency has dissected the assistance into 4 categories based on the number of full-time equivalent employees, and micro businesses, which the government in this grant is identifying as between no employees and 4 full-time equivalents, has been recognised probably for the first time. And a micro business can get 75% of the approved cost. Obviously, that means that the micro business must pay 25% of the costs themselves, and the payment has to be in cash. It's not in kind in any way. It has to be a cash payment. There's no amount mentioned in any of the rules as to what the individual grant is. So a business needs to prepare a summary of what the costs of a particular skills development program will be. All of those services are to be provided by external organisations, consultants, etc., and then have a discussion with the representative from the Industry Skills Fund. So if the cost was going to be $10,000 for a micro business, obviously once approved, the government agency would be paying $7,500. For a small business from 5 to 19 full-time equivalent employees, the grant would be 66% of the approved cost. Medium businesses, 20 to 199 full-time equivalents, 50% of the approved cost. And large businesses, which are defined for this purpose as 200 plus full-time equivalent employees, the grant is 25% of the cost. And as I mentioned before, the co-contribution must be in cash. So that's how the Industry Skills Fund works. I'm going to give you an example of operating ESS BizGrants in a moment, and we will have a look at the Industry Skills Fund in a little bit more detail in that segment of this webinar. What I want to move on to now, just to remind you as new subscribers, how ESS BizGrants works. There's basic information that has to be entered into the profile. Will take a maximum of 3 minutes. The corporate structure, turnover, employee numbers, location, does the business export, does the business do research and development, and what type of business is it and what industry does it operate in. Now, that's the basic information. A lot of that is just tick a box or tick a item, and the profile will be inserted. The system utilizes cloud technology. You don't have to insert the name of your client, but if you don't, you should give them some sort of code or reference number. We are using cloud technology. So what's produced by ESS BIZGRANTS? In the first instance, the system is going to identify possible grants from the profile information that you have entered. And this will place those possible grants into a pending list. You can then look at the pending list and you might immediately rule some of the grants out by saying, no, I know the client's not interested in hiring any more apprentices. I know the client's not interested in doing whatever it might be. And incidentally, you might have the client sitting opposite you while you're undertaking this process. So the client can be answering some of these questions. It is then necessary to answer some additional questions. What we're trying to do is to work through a funnel to try to narrow down with some additional questions to understand whether your client might be eligible for this particular grant. There's a toolkit which contains ESS BizTools papers and checklists and forms for the particular grant that you're looking at. So if you need some more information as to how the grant operates, all you do is click onto the toolkit and you can read it. And depending on the answers you have given, the system may say that you are potentially eligible for that grant. So it moves the name of that grant from the pending list to the potentially eligible grant section of the system. You will then get a potentially eligible grant report. This will have your name on it, the client's name, the date the report was prepared. It includes a synopsis on the individual grants that have been identified now that the client may well be eligible to apply for. It states the amount of the grants that the client could obtain. There's a link to the website of the relevant government departments so that you could click on and go straight to the application form and view what has to be done to submit an application. So in this process, you're able to deliver a very proactive service to your clients. You are the project manager. You are in control of it. There's the potential for earning substantial accounting fees for your firm, and it's an ideal way to start business advisory services activities within your firm if you haven't previously started them. So once again, thank you very much for your support of ESS BIZGRANTS by being a subscriber. If you ever have any questions relative to any aspect of the grants, please don't hesitate to contact us. What I'm going to do now is just move into the website. So I've gone straight to the website and I'm going to the client profiles, and I have a completed client profile, and I'll just go to that. I've called this business Brisbane West Fabricators. We just edit it so we go back so you can see what I've already inserted. I inserted it earlier today to speed up the process of conducting a webinar. So we've inserted the name of the company. As I said earlier, you could insert a code or a number there if you wished, because we are using cloud technology. You need to select the type of business entity that this business is in, and we have selected that it is a company. You need to answer the questions. Do you export products or services? We've said yes. Do you import? We've said no. The number of employees, and I do have a theoretical chart here that I just wrote out, just a sheet as to who this business is. They have 25 employees, so we've ticked the band 20 to 200. Do you have an ABN? We've ticked yes, because you need to have an ABN to get a government grant in any case. The years in business, they've been going for 8 years. So they're in the band over 3 years. And these bands are all built around what the government grants that we've included in ESS BIZGRANTS require. The turnover, there's the selection that could have been made. This business has got a turnover of $7 million. So it's in the band 1.5 to $20 million. Are you registered for GST? We've answered yes. It's a bit like the ABN. You need to be registered for both of those things to obtain a grant. Are you tax exempt? We've answered no. If you answer yes, you won't be shown any grants, because every grant within ESS BIZGRANTS is a grant for a business that ultimately, if it trades at a profit, will pay income tax, which is obviously not the case if you're tax exempt. And are you involved in research and development? We've said yes. There's no supplementary question there. Have you spent more than $20,000? Have you kept records? Have you registered with Oz Industry? Anything like that. It's just a basic question. Have you undertaken any research and development? The main reason is we want to see if there is a possibility of some other grants being obtained that you really need to have undertaken research and development, and perhaps the client hasn't thought about them. Now we save all that information, and the address that I've already inserted for this business, I inserted Ipswich 121 West Street, which hopefully is a fictitious address, and hopefully this is a fictitious business name we're using. I inserted the postcode for Ipswich, which is a city west of Brisbane in Queensland, only about 30 or 40 kilometres west of Brisbane. The postcode is 4305, and the system immediately identified that Ipswich is within the major cities of Australia, which obviously it's caught up as part of the Brisbane metropolitan area. The system has just summarised what we put in for financial. The big question now is the business industry code. I am just going to remove what I've already put in there. Now, this is what you're going to be presented when you come to the business industry code. If you know the code that the taxation office is using for your client, for whoever this is, this Brisbane West Fabricators, you can insert the number where I'm indicating, and that's all you have to do. If you don't know the code, you can search for it by inserting a key name. So this is a steel fabricator. We'll put in steel. And the system has now gone through and identified a whole range of industries from the ATO business list that have steel or steel fabrication in their name. We're going to pick the structural steel product manufacturing. So I've clicked on that, and then that has been reflected on this side. This line here, a full list of the business industry codes, click here. That's no longer applicable. The taxation office has withdrawn that list. So you've now got to do it the way I just did it. And our program will be updating this site in the next week or so, and that line will be removed. So you can put the code in from one or two ways. You either know it and you insert it, or you use keywords to find it. We're now ready to search the grants. So we click on search grants. Now, I've already been looking at some of these grants earlier today, but so in potentially eligible, we already have 5 grants. So I'll just go back to the pending list. This is the list you would normally come to. So you can go through and look at the grants that were shown that you might want to look at. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and go into the potentially eligible. This is exactly the same process. So to see what you would get, you click on the name of the grant, so you get the grant details, and there's a summary of what this grant, which is accelerating commercialization. Now, this is the largest grant available for businesses. It's up to $1 million. We've identified this because the business said they were doing research and development. We really don't know much more. So if you know the client's not doing any real new product development, you probably wouldn't have clicked on this. But on the basis that they were doing research and development, I thought it was worthwhile including it so the client could at least have a look at it. We have a summary of the funding, which can be up to $1 million. The minimum, I've got there 5,000. In actual practice, it's probably a bit higher than that, the minimum amount, but there's no minimum stated. You can then go to the application toolkit. So this is the ESS BIZTOOLS paper on accelerating commercialization. So obviously this process I'm now showing you is repeated for every grant. So there's a paper there, which this one's quite large, which you can, because it's $1 million grant, you'd expect there to be a lot of questions and a lot of information, and there is. So it's all summarized there for you to read. At the end of that process, when we get the system to go back, I'll just go back around here. We had a technical issue there. The next grant you might have wanted to look at would be Business Growth Grant. There's the summary on it. You could go through and look at the funding procedure again, and it's up to $20,000. You could go to the application toolkit. You could read the paper on the grant. There's some additional criteria there which needs to be answered. I've already gone through and answered that. And when we did that, the system said apply now. If you answered the questions incorrectly, apply now doesn't appear. And when we close that, it would take us back to the report. The Export Market Development Grant is the same way. There's a summary there of how the grant operates. We can look at the funding. There's up to $150,000. The toolkit has got the papers on the Export Market Development Grant. We've gone through and answered the additional criteria questions. and we've then closed it. So that's basically how that works. The Industry Skills Fund, because we've been looking at that today, that's in the system. So there's a summary of the grant together with the funding details and the application toolkit, the criteria, etc. So at this stage, we've done all that. You're then in a position to produce the grant report. So all you need to do is to click on to prepare grant report. And there's the report that you've got for Brisbane West Fabricators. It's a summary of the individual grants, telling them the amount of money that's available under the grant and what percentage of they have to contribute. Then we go into the next grant and so on. So there's the report that you can then sit down and have a discussion with your client and identify to them that in a very proactive manner, you have located this grant for them. And that's basically how ESS BIZGRANTS works. Our suggestion is that you process this grant report as part of the annual account work. It will take up to 3 minutes to enter the profile information. It will take another 6, maybe 10 minutes for someone who clearly understands the client to answer the questions. Then you can produce the report so that when the client comes in for their evaluation of their financial performance, you are able in a very proactive manner to be able to inform them of these grants that they could be eligible to apply for. It's then up to the client to submit an application, or you could do the application process for them, start a new fee file, bill them separately for that work. So thank you very much for participating today. We look forward to your continuation for a long time as subscribers to ESS BIZGRANTS. Remember, grants are continually changing and we are continually updating the system. So don't assume that because a particular client never got a grant, that there might not be a grant for someone that looks rather similar to that business in a few months' time, because some new grants may have been issued and incorporated within the system. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.